The only Western television broadcaster reporting from Damascus is CNN's own Fred Pleitgen. He joins us now on the line from the Syrian capital. Fred, you've been following the movements of the UN inspection teams. Why haven't they been able to visit this site of last week's shelling?
Hi, Pauline. Well, they haven't been able to for security reasons. That's what they said earlier this morning. And also the Syrian Foreign Ministry said as well. And all that seems to be related to what actually happened to them yesterday. You'll recall that yesterday when they did manage to get to one of those sites in the western suburbs of Damascus, as they were going out there from government-controlled territory into rebel-controlled territory, their convoy came under sniper fire. And one of the vehicles was actually disabled to a point where the vehicle had to be replaced, and they were then having to go back here and getting a new vehicle and then only then getting to the site. The UN is now saying that they want additional preparation. They want additional assurances of security for the government part. They have said that it was the different rebel groups that could not find some sort of consensus on who would secure the weapons inspectors when they would have been on the ground there. We haven't heard from the opposition themselves on why they say this happened, but the UN just simply says it wants additional preparation, it wants to be better informed, and therefore it's going to take a little more time before sending its weapons inspectors back into these areas. But of course, we also know, Pauline, that time is absolutely of the essence in all of this, and many countries, including the United States, believe that far too much time has already passed for any sort of conclusive evidence to be found, Pauline.
And in fact, there has been shelling in those areas since Wednesday. So the concern is that whatever evidence is remaining may have been destroyed. Now, in the meantime, Fred, the U.S. has canceled a planned meeting with Russia about Syria. Also, just today, Britain's Prime Minister David Cameron has called British lawmakers back early from their summer holiday to take a vote on military action. So we're seeing the pressure building from Western allies. What is the response from Syria about this?
Well, the Syrians are clearly hearing the message, and one of the ways to determine that is that we've seen that press conference earlier today by the foreign minister where he reiterated that it wasn't the Syrians who were delaying this probe into the alleged chemical weapons used by the United Nations weapons inspectors. He said that they moved as quickly as possible once the weapons inspectors got on the ground to get them access to these new sites. So you're hearing them explain themselves, but on the other hand, you also have this tone of defiance where you're hearing from people like the foreign minister, like the deputy foreign minister as well, that if the foreign powers like the United States decide to attack Syria, that Syria will defend itself. Now, of course, they haven't said how exactly they plan to do that. And past attacks, for instance, by the Israeli military seem to indicate that maybe there won't be any response at all from the Syrians. But on the one hand, you have that defiance with them saying they would strike back, and also the fact that they're continuing their military campaign against the opposition unabated, still firing a lot of artillery on the outskirts where those chemical weapons attacks allegedly took place. You have all that, but at the same time, you also have them clearly trying to defend their position and trying to explain themselves as well, Pauline.
Fred, we're also hearing reports that the Syrian opposition has handed Western allies a list of suggested targets if, in fact, there is some sort of military intervention. Do you have any details on that?
Not really. I haven't heard anything from the opposition side because obviously we're reporting from the government side. It's very difficult to access outside information from here. From what I've heard in the past, though, the opposition has very often handed Western powers lists of possible targets that would be of interest. It's unclear whether those that would actually be hit, and certainly the U.S. says that it's drawing up its own plans for places to hit, and also what scope and what scale its intervention would have.
All right, Fred, thank you very much for the update from Damascus. Fred Pleitgen is the only Western television broadcaster there reporting from inside Syria, inside the capital.